Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this fabulous Bank Holiday Monday over here. Welcome to the Oxford International Short Film Festival. I'm Olivia, and I'm going to be your host for this block, which is entitled War is Hell. It is an absolutely cracking set of films, and it's all around war, what happens when language fails. We've got innocence, we've got soldiers, we've got civilians, we've got pain and trauma. We've got no flag large enough to cover the shame of all kinds of delights. And essentially, it's a feast for the eyes and ears. So please do enjoy yourselves. We've got 6 films. We've got 66 minutes worth. So we will wrap up with the films in about just over an hour, just after 2:30 our time. And then stick with us because we're going to have a bit of a Q&A with some of the filmmakers who are able to join us today, which is really, really exciting. So we've got a couple of filmmakers from the films in this block who are going to stick with us for a bit of a conversation. So do stick around for that. As the films are playing and in the Q&A, please get involved with all the comments in whether you're tuning in on Facebook or YouTube, whatever you're doing. Get comments over to us, get questions. If you have anything that you are wondering, please do get involved. And without further ado, my glamorous assistant, let's roll the films. This is War is Hell.
Do not go gentle into that good light. Old age should burn, ready for close of day. Rage, rage at the dying of the light. Though wise men, at their end no dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning they. Do not go gentle into that good night. Good men. The last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have just. Do not go gentle into that good night. Wild men who caught the sun in flight and learned too late. They grieve it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. death. You see with blinding sight. Blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Do not go gentle into that good night. And you, my father, there on that sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
We will survive this, whatever the cost. God wills it.
Whatever the cost. This is a house of God. The ceiling's been breached. That's a corporeal matter. God wills nothing. Your words are empty.
I'm sorry.
Get out of here, woman. Your blind faith with you.
But...
Leave!
Hannah! Luca! Maria! Maria.
What's going on?
Maria. Now. Where's your mother?
Maria, come back upstairs at once.
You can't stay here. They'll find out who you are.
I will not leave the children.
The children must go with you.
What?
The Nazi regime are apprehending children.
Why?
Never mind why. Military trucks are scouring the area. They're on our street. I've seen it.
What about you?
Now, you'll travel to Zurich and reach your sister's inn. In a few days, I'll see you there. Out the back. Out the back.
They'll kill you.
I'm of the Christian faith. They won't. Go. Go! Go!
Bomb shrapnel have cursed my church to look decrepit. Even if the bishop says it's suitable for religious purposes, I doubt our Lord would approve.
A full reinstallation of the damaged roof will cost you 20 marks, sir.
That's father to you. Can't you find it in yourself, as a Christian, to help the church and reduce the price by half in these dire circumstances? This building is important. This damaged church of St. Thomas, well, it's our culture, our heimat, the very heart of our country.
If a church is a heart, then this nation must have many hearts to spare. What's one heart of all those that remain unmolested?
My father was in the clergy. He fought with God's will to uphold this very church, and he did triumphantly. Now, this hereditary church is now mine, and I will not let his sacrifices be rendered fruitless.
Look, I understand, but I'm afraid in this circumstance, finances are more crucial than ever. Many of my employees are dead. Don't you receive tithes?
Not since the regime.
A word of advice. If I was you, I would be quick about funding the repairs. Rain penetration, leaking, create an excess moisture to the timber, dampening, plumbing leaks, etc. And just to let you know, my service will not be available forever.
Oh, you'll see me. Tell me, where are you located in the factory?
Well, I am allocated at the senior officer now. I dare say we've got our jobs back from the Jews. However, you still can find me in the mobile office at the reclamation yard. Father.
Good Lord. What are you doing out there? Please. I beg of you. Let me help you. Please. Please.
Thank you, Father.
Whilst our roof is exposed, our walls stand still and it is warmer for it. Sophie, they're starving. Please prepare them some food.
There is some baked bread prepared in the kitchen. Help yourselves.
Please.
You didn't mention there were others.
Please, don't be alarmed. God bless.
The Führer and his soldiers have exchanged roles with the false gods. Where are they? It is a very beautiful church you have here, I must say. It'd be a pity if it was squandered.
My fee?
You'll receive 15 marks once they arrive at their destination.
15 marks. Very well. Where are they going?
They're to be utilised for labour at the craftsman's reclamation yard.
I have business there. Later. I'd be grateful for any transportation, if there's space.
Fine. As a worthy ally, you've earned it.
As I'm an ally, could you find another 5 marks to defray any costs you may?
We'll see. After the deal is done.
I will only take this 6, not him. He's too frail, useless and ill, obsessed with the stuffed toy. A child, not a worker. There's too many of them to feed out there.
But he will grow. I assure you, tutor him from an early age in the line of production and he will prove invaluable.
It will do no good.
Maria! Let go of him! Let go of me! Let go of me! Maria! What are you doing with my brother?
I presume I won't get my 5 marks.
You're a born haggler priest. You will be just fine.
What will happen to the boy?
We'll handle it, sir.
That's father to you.
Father, your marks.
What?
Your marks, priest, as promised.
sind doch jetzt wieder ein so fleißiges und tatkräftiges Volk geworden. Was schaffen wir jetzt nicht wieder in Deutschland? Was haben wir nicht für Aufgaben? Man hat uns die ganzen Jahre schon eingeredet, dass der Deutsche sowieso nicht ganz gleichwürdig sei den anderen Völkern in der Welt. Was haben wir heute für Aufgaben? Was für gewaltige Werke bauen wir? Wir bauen heute Instrumente, Straßen, gewaltige Anlagen.
And then stop. Here. You stay there, always. Do as you're told.
Johnny!
Uniform, halfway back. Go tell the others.
Where the hell did he come from? I liked your act.
So, why are there no Olympics for the Jews?
I'm helping out the police. Helping them to... We're cleaning up Berlin before the Games. Clearing out the Jews. And the Roma, gypsies, travelers.
You want me to fix that for you? What's your name? You're not from Berlin, are you?
Thank you. No, I didn't...
What's your name?
I'm from Freiburg. Otto. I'm Otto.
Otto. Original. It really is Otto, isn't it?
Can I see you? Later.
I have to work.
Don't hit me!
I told you. What if someone sees you? They'll snatch you up, take you away, and throw you in the Romani detention camp with your mother.
Why can't I go camp? What does poster mean?
Poster, Helen?
On the wall. All 10-year-olds must be in Hitler Youth. I almost 10 soon.
You're almost 8. And we're going to America, remember? For Mickey Mouse and hot dogs.
How big America?
Big enough.
What do Americans look like?
What? Americans look like all kinds of people. Normal people. Help me, sweetheart.
Do they have normal people, like me?
All kinds of people. As soon as I can get the money together, we'll go.
And Mama comes too?
We'll see.
What's that doing here?
Not my concern. It's part of a novelty act.
I'm going to be Hitler Youth.
Roma should be in the camp in Marzahn with the others.
Obviously. I'm taking it there later tonight. Go on. Enough of little girls, Otto.
Katharina? Come up too, Katharina.
I told you, just go and get ready. If you just give me a few... I need my coat.
Late for a little while. A little mouse.
بوقت ما كان كل العالم عم يحتفلوا بربح إيطاليا بكأس العالم، كنا بعطلة بلبنان عم نزور العائلة. الكل كان مبسوط وكنا كل الوقت عم نلعب ونركض مع الولاد اللي بعمرنا. فجأة سمعنا حدا عم بيصرخ من ورا صوت رصاص، ما حدا كان متوقعها. صار كل شي فجأة. أول شي كنا مفكرين إنه فرقاع، بس بعدين الكل بلشوا يركضوا. ما شفنا غير الفوضى. كنا أولاد بوقتها، وصراحة أهلاتنا ما كانوا مبينين خايفين، بركي لأنه كبروا بفلسطين والحرب كانت جزء من حياتهم دايما، ما بعرف. فعملنا مثلهم، وبتذكر إنه فكرت إنه ما حنطول. عكس عائلتنا، نحن كان معنا باسبور بريطاني. بعتقد إنه كنا مطمنين لأنه كنا دايما نعرف إنه إذا صار الوضع مش منيح فينا نفل. بتذكر مرة كنا قاعدين بأوضة القعدة وفجأة صار البيت كله يرج، بلش كل شي يوقع حوالينا، انقطعت الكهرباء. هيدا كان آخر شي أهلي كانوا حيتحملوه. ليلتها قرروا إنه نفل. كنا عم نحس مع عائلتنا صراحة، بعتقد إنه هيدي المرة كانت بتخوف أكتر لأنه كانوا عارفين شو جاية. كانوا بيعرفوا مثل ما نحن كلنا كنا بنعرف إنه الحرب يعني الموت، وهذا الشي بحد ذاته بخوف كتير. بتذكر وداعنا الأخير وكنت عم بفزع، حسيت إنه عم نتخلى عنهم وما كان فيي أعمل شي تساعدهم. سافرنا للحدود السورية، بوقتها كانت الحدود أمان أكتر. تذكر ورا ما طلعنا سكروا الحدود ورانا، كنا آخر سيارة قطعت.
I just want to get through it, you know? Unnoticed, under the radar. I don't. It's kind of a family tradition to carry the guide on during basic training. What's a guide on? It.
Get off my bus! Go, go, go! Hurry up! Go, go! What part of hurry up do you not understand?
Come on, ladies.
Fall in! Line up! Fall in! Hurry up! Hurry up! Dressing cover! Dressing cover! Move! Dress and cover! Eddie!
This is my precious guidon. I need a volunteer to carry it. You. Yes, you, trainee. Fall out. Not you, Private Powder Puff. Tall one in the back. Move, trainee.
Hurry up! Move! Move!
When you form up, you will fall in the front of the formation. Who?
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Welcome to your first day of basic training. We have some fun planned for you today, trainees.
Look forward. Look straight.
Trainee, you better figure out what the fuck you're doing.
Somebody's not gonna make it.
Drill Sergeant Strom, tell them what they've won.
A fun run. Team building.
Platoon! Attend! Huh! Are you fucking kidding me right now, trainee? You better figure out what the fuck you're doing with that flag, or I swear to God, I will skull drag you so far it'll take you a week to find your dignity. All of you, especially you, will be smoked until you're puking tomorrow's breakfast. The guidon is not for show. Soldiers have died carrying their colors. You know what? Fall back in and beat your face, trainee. You ain't worthy of my guidon.
Move your ass! Kiss the ground, trainee. Let's go. Push! Push!
Who volunteered? I've never had a female guidon before. Trainee Brody. Fall out. You're up. Don't fuck it up. Who?
Yes, Drill Sergeant.
Trainee, on your feet.
At the command of fallout, you will promptly put your duffel at the foot of your bunk, and then you will move quickly, deliberately, and with a purpose back down to the formation area.
Fall out. Males to the right, females to the left. Get your duffel and move.
Hurry, hurry,
move.
hurry.
Get your
I said
shit
hurry
out
up.
of my
I
lap.
want you beat them
Get
there.
your duffel
Get there.
and
You
move.
ain't last. Get that door. Get that door.
Close the door.
Right on. Take a lap. Pick up those feet. Right on. Again.
Yes, Drill Sergeant!
Release one on my command.
You better finish first, guidon.
Release.
Give me the guidon.
You lost it, Battle.
What the hell, trainee? Front, lean, rest position, move. Not you.
Get down. Push.
Trainee Barrow thinks she can do whatever she wants.
Butt in the air. Face parallel to the ground.
Do you know what being an individual in the Army gets you?
Not look at me.
Okay. You want to stand down. You want to be recognized. Here's your chance. Go out to that guidon and hold it at the position of present arms. Go. Trainees, by a show of hands, how many of y'all would trust any of these females with your lives in combat? Put your hands down. You just want to fuck them. Actually.
On your feet, trainees.
Line up.
Hurry up.
Get up there. Go. Eddie.
From where you're currently located, you will high crawl to the guidon. Do not take your eyes off trainee Barrow. Go.
Down, down, down. Crawl. Let's move. Let's move. Move your asses. Get your head down. Keep a low profile. Get your asses out of the air and crawl. That's the best you got. Oh, I know y'all can get back. Let's go. Put your face in the dirt. Crawl. Let's go.
Kill one.
Look, oh, you're dead. Lay down. You're dead. Don't move.
Kill 3.
All y'all, dead. Lay down.
Another.
Brody, down.
Another.
Lay down. Another. Nancy, you're dead. Lay down. Another. Road guard, you're dead.
Another.
Training right. You're dead. Down.
Everyone's dead.
You can always try again tomorrow. I mean, we're stuck here for 3 months. Might as well, right? Right? I think I'll pass. Why? It's fine. It's no big deal.
Hey, trainee. It's lights out.
Yes, Drill Sergeant. This was found on the bus.
You tried today. It's more than I can say for most females.
Permission to speak, Drill Sergeant.
Really? Right now? Trainee, get the fuck back in formation.
Speak, trainee.
Spit it out!
Drill Sergeant, I would like to nominate Trainee Varro for guidon bearer.
Oh.
Well, that's not how this works, trainee. Fall back in. Everyone except trainee Barrow. Front, lean, rest position, move. You are absolutely infuriating, trainee. What the fuck do you want? Are you trying to make mommy proud? Tell me what you want. Tell me!
I want to carry the guidon, Drill Sergeant.
Oh my God! Really? I would have never fucking guessed, trainee! You know what?
Battle. Give me the extra special guidon.
Group Attention! Left! Face! Right! Face! Forward! March! Left, left. Mark time! March! Left, left. Group! Halt! Up, out! Pace! Peace, it! Arm! Parade! Press! Fall in, trainee. Not you, Private Powder Puff. Lead my guard on with Trainee Varro. Move, trainee.
Drink water!
Ain't no heat like the Carolina heat, cause the Carolina heat is crazy!
I'm ready for day 2, trainee. What?
What?
Guide on. Fall in.
Hydrate, hydrate. Hurry up. Back on your feet. Let's go.
What is that? You just dropped that? You gonna pick that up? Do you see that? What is that? Do you think you won't get killed?
What is this right here? What is this on
Put it away! What are you doing?
Welcome back in, everybody. Oh wow, what a fantastic hour or so we've just been treated to. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined us, wherever you're tuning in from. We're now going to kick into a Q&A with some of the fabulous filmmakers who have joined us, which is really exciting. So please, if you do have any questions, fire them on over, and we'll also be able to chat amongst the filmmakers who joined us as well. Just to reiterate, we'll be finishing up by 3:30 our time, so that's just 51 minutes time, and we will go through the films in the order that they were played. So let's dive in. War is hell. My goodness me, it really is. It was a really, really emotional and moving block. We haven't got reps here from the first two, but just to say, firstly, Dying Light of the Day, what an incredibly cinematic piece that was. Wow. And an amazing performance from the lead actor as well, when he's really carrying the whole thing. And I love how inventive they've been with a script that was already in existence, and then they've made it into what they needed it to be. So it's not focused on the words itself, because we know the famous poem, but it's what those the new significance and meaning that those take. I thought was absolutely stunning, and some really high production values, similar to the next one, 20 Marks, which is just a massive substantial piece of work. The production values for that are off the scale, and you know, it's a 20-minute movie. You really get so engrossed in it, and I really like how it's a new angle on what we think of as World War movies. It's giving us that moral conflict. It's giving us a deeper understanding about the complexities of that horrific era. It's really harrowing, but the sweeping score just carries us through the whole thing. I think the score of that was absolutely stunning. Did any of you have any thoughts or comments or around those first two films?
Absolutely outstanding. Just amazing pieces of work. The first two in like everything. It's an absolute honor to be part of such amazing films.
You're so welcome. It's an honor to have you. Yeah, I think they kicked us off to a really, really good start. And we kept with that theme into one of my favorite films of this year, and one of Andy's favorite films of this year, The Fabulous Mousy. Thank you so much for both joining us. It's really, really exciting to have you here. Oh, I mean, it's just a stunning piece. It's so atmospheric, and kind of like I was saying with the previous one, I love that you are telling a completely new story about a time that we know a lot about, which gave us a totally new experience of that world. David, why this story? Where did it come from? What were the origins of this project?
Well, it arose from many different sources. It is, as you say, a completely original story. I hadn't heard that particular story. Obviously, I did my research to make sure that what I was coming up with was accurate and was possible. I would hate to take liberties, but it really sort of all started, sadly, with the death of that little Syrian refugee, Aylan Kurdi, who became very famous because of an amazing photograph, but also a dreadful photograph in terms of its content, who died on the beach at Bodrum in Turkey. And at that time, a few years ago, I mean, it was harrowing, and I'd been worried and anxious and upset about the fate of refugees for some time. And to be honest, a lot of people in the West were entirely derelict in their duty, and what had been rising at the same time was a demonization of refugees. There was a woman who I will not name in this country, in my home country, who referred to refugees as vermin, and this made me very, very angry. And I could see there was a general thing about demonizing, and this has been going on in the Western world, sadly, for some time, demonizing Johnny Foreigner, basically, Muslims, people of color, refugees. And this started to make me think, we've been here before. I'm quite a keen student of history. And I thought that the thing that, amongst the obvious things that were really upsetting me, was the thought that we've damn well been here before. And where we are is at that kind of milky, comfortable, easy stage where nobody really calls it for what it is. We're evolving into something that we're where we've been before. And that to me not only seems lunatic, but appalling. So I started to think, well, what's the pitch I'm looking at? And I thought, it's the rise. It's not the Second World War. It's not bullets. It's the rise of that. How does that take hold? And at the same time, then thinking of children who are always not only the most innocent victims of a war scenario, but also they're the ones that get whacked the hardest. They lose their parents, their grandparents, and they die themselves. I mean, you know, millions of children died in the Second World War amidst the 56 million who died in it. And at the moment, there are millions of children on this planet who are refugees. And I just think, you know, how can you look at a child and in any way think it is acceptable, excusable, embraceable to say, well, okay, it's politics. So that's really what drove me. And apart from that, the last two things I'd say, because I don't want to go on forever and dominate this, was that I was aware, looking at history, that the Romani people, the Roma and Sinti of Europe, suffered what they call a paremos, which is the Romani word for devouring, which was their version of the Holocaust. And I felt this had not been brought to light sufficiently. There was only a memorial put up in Berlin a matter of 10, 15 years ago, which seems very recent. I mean, Berlin's a terrific city for understanding and accepting and memorializing the pain and suffering. It's admirable for that. But the Roma, I don't feel, the Romani people, I should say, had not really been, their story had not been really told. And over 500,000 Roma and Sinti were murdered, largely without recognition or acknowledgement in that period. So all those sort of elements came together. And the final thing, I have to say, which was very important to me, was hope. I didn't want to just tell a story of, you know, untold suffering and misery, which of course war leads to in so many situations. Undoubtedly, that's inarguable. But I did want to say there is something not only to live for, but there is something that we can grab hold of apart from just guns and bullets, which children very rarely have access to defend themselves with. But art. And art has always been the currency of my life more than anything else. Art and love and compassion, that gets you through everything. So that's why I wanted to set it. And I thought this all comes together in that period in Germany, in Berlin in 1936, when there's a big celebration, which is something we can all access, the idea of the Olympics. But in that scenario, but bringing in, you know, a club which was one of the great features of the Weimar period in Germany prior to the election of the Hitler coalition in 1933. That Weimar period in the 20s was described as, you know, one of the most vibrant and liberated periods culturally in history. And it was all destroyed by the Nazis and the then German Catholic Party. And so I felt that was something which suggested decay, but also art and hope. And out of that, you know, and so our little one at the end of the film basically, you know, defeats a fascist at that point seen as impotent and dumb, simply with the power of her extraordinary ingenuity and talent, beautifully brought to the screen, I have to say, by Sasha.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, and I think that's what's so moving about the film, in that you can the way that she dances her way out and charms her way out, and like you say, artistry that overrides prejudice and hatred, and that actually that can be the smoke and mirrors that I guess elevates us out of these atrocities that do happen. I must just quickly say, Savash, I'm so sorry. In my muddling, I got my muddle in order of muddle. But
no problem.
Let's just go off that, because it actually ties in really well in terms of what you were saying about the children of war, David, and that is obviously a huge focal point for your film, Savash. How did that play out for you in terms of that importance of that side of the story?
First of all, I would like to thank you for this event, and also I'm very happy to be this fantastic festival. I feel very proud to see my film among these all fantastic films. So David is a good director as well as good speaker. So whatever he says, I completely agree with him, because I came out almost the same route which David said. It always bothers me, whatever happened, children dying. So adult greedy and religion, politics, it doesn't matter who is getting the power, children needs to die. So that is the only issue. When I come out with this story, I said, okay, I need to go directly to children of war, and also I need to criticize this political environment and also religion environment. So I created my treatment like that, and then Daniel is a fantastic writer. We collaborated with him, and he wrote all the screenplay. And then we shoot the film. Actually, it's same issue all filmmakers face off the money. Actually, 20 marks was a bit longer than it was actually. It was around...
yeah. I mean, let's maybe talk about that, because it is a substantial budget, and how. I mean, to be honest, you can see where I think you've actually got a good value, frankly, because the film looks even more than that. It's a staggering aesthetic and a huge production. How did you go about the funding of it? Because it is a big story that needed that sort of size budget.
Oh, it's a long story, but long story short, I tried to find money because I knew I had something good, in my script. But the point is, the pandemic situation occurred, and we lost all our sources because people want to keep the money. But the point, I still need to do this film, so I spent from my pockets, and I took some money from my friends. I took credits, and I spent lots of money on it, but I'm very happy at the end.
Good. You should be. Absolutely. It's a wonderful piece. I didn't realize, I was just looking at your completion date. Yeah, so you were filming it through the pandemic, really. How were you affected by it? What were the challenges?
So many. I don't know which one I should start. First of all, I couldn't use any assistant. All the costume and stuff we did with head of production, because we are not allowed to get in the studio more than 6 people. So all the lighting, all the blocking, camera places, even sometimes I worked in a sound department. I was helping the sound, sometimes helping lighting. And by the way, I was trying to direct my crew as well. So it was absolutely a disaster. After shoot the film, You know, I rest 10 days. I just been on the bed for 10 days because I was that exhausted. But the end, we spent lots of money, but the product, which was still worth it. But
Yeah.
if I find money, I will do it a longer version because 20 marks, it was a feature film, actually.
I was going to say, what's next for you? Because it does feel like there's a lot more in the can there. What's the next venture with it? What's your hopes from here?
Oh, actually, it's a bit complicated. At the moment, I'm going to leave 20 marks in somewhere because 20 marks start its own journey and it's doing very well. But I'm working a feature film this time. I will not make it short. I will go as a feature film. So I'm trying to find some money to shoot it. So the script almost ready, and hopefully I'm gonna do it. But it is gonna be a sci-fi film, next one.
Oh, that's really exciting. Oh, please do keep in touch. Please do let us know what happens with it. I mean, it's absolutely staggering. Will you? I mean, I'd certainly work with that composer again. Absolutely. I think the score of yours is a really beautiful thing.
Thank you very much. I was really lucky that because everyone believed this project and they just put you know, their effort and all the energy free. No
Really?
one put any money. Yeah,
oh, wow.
I spent all the money to production.
That all
But
went there.
I really appreciate for their all effort and time.
Well,
They
it's
were
an incredible achievement.
wonderful
Absolutely
people.
brilliant.
I was really lucky and happy about that. And by the way, I loved Sasha's performance. It was stunning, absolutely stunning. Congratulations.
I loved your film.
Thank you very much.
That leads me on perfectly. Do any of you have any questions for Savash?
Yes, I think I might have recognised the location, which is very beautiful. It's a great choice. Which church is that? I was thinking, is it this one? Is it that one? Is it somewhere in the South Downs? Isn't it?
Yes, it is in Portsmouth.
It's in where? Sorry.
Portsmouth.
Ah, okay, got you. Great.
It was a fantastic location. It was very difficult to find it, but finally we did it.
Yeah, it looks wonderful. It's great. It's beautiful location.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Gosh, I thought you must have shot that abroad somewhere. It's near Portsmouth, is it? Gosh.
Yes, it is.
Who knew? Portsmouth. Well, there we are.
Scouting took more than 2 months. So.
Right. Yeah. Any other questions for Savash?
I was going to quickly ask just in terms of because you mentioned that someone else had screenwrote it. How long did that take to get it from your vision into the new screenwriting process?
Oh, thank you. It's a very good question. Actually, sometimes I'm asking same question to myself because there is no time limit. Sometimes when you feel the story is ready, then you are starting to get work on it. But what I'm doing generally when I write something, I'm just keeping it somewhere and waiting for a while. And after that, when I read, if I still like it, I'm like, okay, there is something in this script. Otherwise, I'm just leaving it. But if I need to give you time, I would say approximately a couple of months.
Gosh, yeah.
I mean,
that's not surprising. I think it's a fantastic piece of work, and thank you very much for sharing it with us. Now seamlessly pivot back to Mousy, as if it was all intentional. David, just to carry on where you left off, I think one thing I'd love to ask about is the aesthetic and the I mean, it's incredibly atmospheric. You build this sort of underworld of entertainment. The way you use light and dark and shadow is so symbolic and powerful and effective. What was your vision there for the aesthetic of the film?
Well, I mean, obviously you go from, a setting, once we'd worked that out as a Weimar decaying club, was, okay, this is a world of decay. It's a world where all the good stuff is fading, decaying, and the stuff that's becoming predominant and funded, if you like, sourced and encouraged, is the darkness. And the biggest currency in there really is pain and anxiety. And the only person who doesn't really just go with this, because she's so young, is Sasha's character, Helene, because she doesn't understand. But otherwise, Katerina, who's looking after her, beautifully played, I think, by actually genuinely a great musical star herself. I discovered her by watching her on stage at the Theatre Royal in Drury Lane, and wrote her name down, and then pursued her like some terrible stalker, because I just think C.J. Johnson is magic. But she delivers, what I always imagined would be the thing for the vision, as you say, the aesthetic, was that everybody would be tortured. It's a horror story. It is a horror. The only beacon of light who, makes us think of tomorrow and the future, which is always children and faith and art, is Helene. Otherwise, even our Nazis are deliberately strange and awkward. Otto was never intended to be, the full package, as it were. He's not he's an embryonic Nazi. He's still partly the normal, guy who was Otto from Freiburg in the Black Forest, who's just an ordinary bloke. And he's been brought into this. He doesn't like Berlin. He's awkward. He's, so everything was about the turning of the screw. It was all supposed to feel like there's darkness in this now. Everything's slightly broken down. It's decaying. The audience in the club are stiff and awkward because this Nazi's turned up. He's awkward. The old Nazi comedian in the club probably was never a Nazi, but he's obviously inebriated. He's a wreck. He's embracing it and turned his act into this awful kind of nasty, blunt, unfunny thing. So that was the general aesthetic. And I was very lucky to have two majorly important things in any film, but certainly this one, where of course the music, and music's a huge inspiration to me in everything I do. Anything I write or come up with, I score it first with tracks, then write to that, and then if I'm lucky, I get somebody as wonderful as Jack Arnold, who wrote the score for this, to come in. And he from the start said he's a very, very lovely style about him, Jack. He's a very beautiful human being. And he just said, dude, this is a horror film. I mean, the idea that there's a child, and you do realize that all of this, and this is what was intended, all of this is just wrong. This whole world is wrong. This woman who's been forced into this position of looking after a child that isn't hers, a mother who has to give a child away, a child that has to stay in a wardrobe, a Nazi who doesn't know whether he's coming or going until finally, oh, I know, I'll do the full Nazi thing, and then he assaults someone. It's a nasty, murky world, really. And the only thing is this kind of flickering, the last dying embers of art and color in their dancing, which sort of brightens us. And then that manic, grotesque piece from one of the worst operettas ever written, Victoria und ihr Husar, Mausi, which is just crazy, loony stuff. So that was the full aesthetic, and the composer absolutely grabbed that, Jack Arnold, and also a guy I've worked with a lot, Paul Kersop, who lit it, the DOP. He really got that sense of dinginess, and also the film is very red. It's intended to be quite a red, dark, shadowed film, and that was our design for the whole thing. That this, it's the flip. It's the world of art and joy and comedy and all of that, but just turned into this sort of like dying gasp. And
absolutely,
so, in a sense.
Sasha, for you to come into that world, which is quite dark and scary and horrible, what was your experience like?
During the film, it's a very interesting topic, I found, because although it's so like dark and upsetting and such a meaningful thought, there's also hope at the end of Mausi. Hope for Helene, and hope for the story, and hope for all of the other refugees and people that need help.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you become involved? Did you audition, and how did you work on your character?
I auditioned, and I actually missed the first audition, but then David David then tried to find me so I could audition again, which was very nice. And then me and David, we sort of connected. I think we connected very well. And we found quite a good bond, and we're very good friends.
Oh, wow. It must, I mean, it's a massive piece of work. How old were you when you first started shooting it?
I was 8.
You were 8. Oh, wow. I mean, well done.
No, you weren't. You were 7.
Were you 7? Oh my goodness me.
You're 8 in October, aren't you? And we shot it in July. But yes.
Wow. Wowie. That's really amazing. And are you pleased with it as a film? Are you proud of it?
I'm very proud of it. So many people worked so hard to create it, and it's just so lovely seeing it at the finished work and seeing how hard and how much work people put into it. And it's just great seeing that as the finished effect.
What was your favorite thing about either your character or the story or the production? What was your favorite thing, do you think?
I don't think I could choose. I liked it all. It was very fun filming it, and I just loved the story. Because though it's sad, I like connecting with it.
Yeah, and I think it was a really important story because I think, like you say, often the other minorities that were so horribly persecuted are often not the focus of the narratives that we tend to be given, and to connect with that is really important, I think. Did you know much about the period of history before you started filming, Sasha? Did you have to do a lot of work and research to prepare your character and work on the script before you started filming?
Yes, I did. David and my mum both helped me.
Oh, brilliant. Well done. My goodness, incredible. Well, I think you're made for a future of stardom. What's next for you? Are you going on to something exciting?
No.
Because do you carry on doing bits of theatre, or are you in stage school or anything like that?
I do theatre.
Can we come and see you in something?
Not at the moment. I'm not in anything now.
Oh, will you tell us if we can?
I will.
I have to say, just to come in there, that not just because she's here, and I wouldn't bother interrupting and imposing this into this thing, but Sasha was an absolute dream to work with. She's so smart and so considerate and so committed, and she'd never done anything like this before. She'd never acted on screen, had you, love? I mean, Sasha's just a great dancer. She'd spent all her time dancing, and she is a terrific dancer. I mean, she's quite extraordinary, but she was just remarkable. I mean, kids are just extraordinary at times. No fuss, no trouble, very focused, always a smile, very charming. Everyone loved her. She's so, yeah, I mean, as I say, I don't have to interrupt and say this, so you can take it as absolute God's honest truth.
I'm not surprised at all.
She's a delight. She really is. And a credit to really good mum and dad as well.
I bet. I mean, you're an absolute gem. It's a wonderful performance, Sasha. It's absolutely brilliant. Let me open it up. Do you have any questions for either David or Sasha, the rest of our panel here?
I have a question. Sasha, did you already know how to tap, or did you have to learn how to tap?
I already knew how to tap.
Dancing is okay. I was like, that is hard.
Some amazing. When did you start tap dancing, Sasha?
When I was quite young. I can't quite remember, but I've always done it with my mummy. I've always danced with my mum because I've loved doing it with her, and she's taught me and become my teacher.
Do you know, I mean, I'm going to have to get you to come teach me. I have some tap shoes and they're still in the cupboard and I still can't really do it. So I really must get onto that. So you can send me some tips, send me some YouTube videos and I'll practice. Any other questions before we move on?
It's not a question. I just really wanted to say to Sasha, you're incredibly adorable and an amazingly powerful actor. And it's amazing.
Thank you very much.
How difficult was the accent, Sasha? Did you have to work on that a little bit?
Yes, I did. It was quite hard at first, but with David's help and my mum's, it really helped me.
What's your heritage? Do you have any connection with Romany or anything like that?
No, I don't.
Well, that's a tricky one then. You had to learn that, and it's flawless. You did amazingly. Absolutely brilliant. From one fabulous country to another, let's move on to the brilliant Yulu. Fatima, thank you so much for joining us. What an incredible piece of work. How did you start on this story? Where did this come from?
Well, so it's a true story. It's my friend's story that she told me maybe 5 years. And very much the back of my head of wanting to make it into something. And then lockdown happened, and suddenly we all had a lot of time on our hands. And it was very much kind of like, okay, might as well do something with what we've got. And then it started becoming, need to find an animator, need to find a team. We're all over the world working remotely, trying to kind of get this done while also working full-time jobs. And the team is outstanding. It's a very kind of touchy topic for everyone involved. And we've kind of managed to do it in a way that still had the emphasis of the feeling of being stranded and the feeling of being able to go back and leave family behind. But at the same time, we didn't want to traumatize people in showing the graphicness of it. Because at the end of the day, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but it's essentially a recalling of a memory. So it's meant to be very childlike. Our memories are very vague. We have very specific random things to remember, like the fact that it was Italy's World Cup win. Very random in the space of like a whole war abruptly starting. But yeah, that's kind of how we started on it. And then it took us about the actual like writing and changing it into Arabic and recording sound, etc. was about like maybe 2 months. And then the animation took us 3 months. And we were done January this year.
Amazing. Gosh, that's so interesting what you were saying there about, I completely get what you mean about the childlike nature of it and the sort of fragmented, unreliable nature of memory. It's consistently unreliable and muddled, isn't it, sometimes? And I think you touched on there about not wanting to show the graphicness of it. Was that largely what was behind your choosing to make this an animation? Was it ever maybe going to be anything else, or was that always what you envisaged in your mind?
It's quite hard because I think it being an animation worked out in our favor, but also was technically the only thing we could do in lockdown. But in the sense of having the flexibility to create this kind of like dreamlike world in a quite a gritty story, it was the best thing that we could do. And it worked out quite well in trying to building that kind of emotional roller coaster as it kind of goes through. But it's there were a couple of different elements I think that we couldn't have done as well if it was live action. The fact that the entire kind of scripture of the background, the way that the color scheme gets darker and darker and darker and darker as it kind of goes through. There's a very grittiness element to that would have been too real, and would have kind of lost the dreamlike effect. Yeah.
And I think that you run the risk of alienating your audience if you go too far with that. And I think by putting it into an animation setting, it makes us look at it and think about it in a completely different way. And therefore it resonates much deeper, actually, because I think unfortunately, we're almost becoming desensitized now, aren't we? Because there are such atrocities on the news. At 3 clicks, we can see or learn about horrible things. And I think that's what's so brilliant about so many of the films in this block, is that it actually presents the truth and the humanity and the individual story and the beauty that we hopefully see the world through, even in the hardest of times. I think that's what's so powerful about it. what would you say you would want the takeaway to be from someone watching your film? What was your aims for what people would go away thinking or feeling?
I think the film gives something different depending on your own heritage and your own experience with war. I think for the audience that either kind of come from war-torn countries, like myself, and live in a diaspora, it was important for me that I wasn't kind of bringing them back into that world, and giving them an ability to actually watch it and actually be like, okay, it's a story that's contained. You can kind of watch it and enjoy it without it kind of pulling you back into something that you don't really want to think about anymore. I think for everyone else, I wanted the emphasis on family to be seen. I feel like people get forgotten in times of war. I feel like it becomes statistics, it becomes numbers, and the absolute kind of like the burden and the guilt that comes from being able to be okay because you have a British passport, to be kind of fine because of that citizenship, to be able to kind of be like, okay, like everything's on fire around me, but actually, eventually I'll be fine. While you have tons of kind of your own family and people you know who don't have the same privilege. And I think that doesn't necessarily come across in quite a lot of representations of war, that it's something that you hold on to. It doesn't really go away. So whenever we talk about, I think David was talking about refugees, and I think whenever we talk about people fleeing, and like Afghanistan is a very good example now, we don't think about the person and their kind of the amount of things that they're bringing with them that they're going to have to deal with for the rest of their lives. And it's I think it's an incredibly important kind of point to really keep remembering. And unfortunately, Yulia is kind of universally, what's the right word, relatable at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was something that I found really very moving actually with all of these. I think the fact that we are watching this block of films today, and the line that really resonated for me was that end bit of we were the last car. And, I live very near Bryce Norton, where we've just had the last plane, and we've just had, it's still happening, like you say. And I think these attitudes that are sweeping across, in infecting things that actually are totally detached from the individual, the story, the family that is behind this. And I think, I just think it was a real honor to screen these films today, of all days. And I think it's so sad, and that we unfortunately are still in similar positions, whether it's 100 years ago at the beginning of the block, or really, really recent and today. Does anyone have any questions for Fatima before we go on to the next one?
Yes. I've got a question, if I may. It's a really interesting, very specific, well, all animation is very specific in your styling. It's not just, well, we put the camera on, there's the actors. You have a very particular style, as a sort of what you might call a kind of reference to naive art, as they used to call it, which sounds a bit negative, but it isn't at all. It's a very lovely, accessible style. I've never animated. I have no relationship to that world at all, which is why it's always been fascinating and rather wonderful to me. Did you look at various different types of style before coming to that, or was that always in your head?
I had the idea that it needed to be kind of like stripped back from the beginning. And then when I was looking for my animator, when I landed on Harifa has a very kind of abstract feel to her artwork. And so we had quite a lot of time going back and forth and kind of figuring out how to make this dreamness of it. And we kind of gathered that actually if we go 2D, And if we go line drawings, and the lines themselves become the people, and the actual abstractness of coming together and moving apart, that we're giving people the feeling of separation without showing them separation. That's kind of where we ended up, that it felt like we could work really easily with this type of art style, that without it bringing out too much, without it taking away too much from the voiceover.
Oh, we have a comment asking about mousy music if we get time. So very quickly, yeah, we could just very quick. Well, I think you spoke briefly about the score, David, but just in terms of what you were trying to achieve with that, to go underneath everything, what were you hoping for there in terms of the shape and the tension of it and the style?
Well, to be honest, I'm perfectly honest, I gave it to Jack Arnold. It already had the original sort of records within it that we were going to use. So Sasha's routine at the end obviously was set with the Hans Karlska, I think it is, Kiss Me, which is what the song is, and the others. So I went to Jack Arnold and said, this is the atmosphere I want. I mean, you can see what the film means. And Jack, went for a certain sort of feel, but what he did that, there's a very childlike sort of central theme, which obviously is the voice of Helene, because Helene, in a way, is the only one Sasha's character, that doesn't cast an opinion. She doesn't really say how she feels. She's just bewildered. And we wanted to get into her head, and I didn't want to give her lots of fake, odd, weird, grown up in a child's body type dialogue. I think the film progress has moved past that now. So I needed some sort of voice for her, and so Jack, of course, came up with this rather lovely, plaintive song, which is very simple, and beyond that, it was this aching atmosphere that seems to me very reminiscent of his massive achievement, I think, of the sort of David Lynch type atmosphere, and particularly actually a part which says a lot about his approach in the stairwell scene, the confrontation. What's that doing here, from the Nazi at the Little Soul? The atmosphere that Jack builds into that from the score is so atonal. It doesn't really exist as music. He's using atmospheres and tones and just combining them in this horrible kind of sense of some awful floating limbo, which I think is just perfectly genius. And behind that last point, which is kind of, I think, rather sweet, and nobody ever gives me the chance to say this, it's quite nice to bring it out. There is the sound of an old mechanical piano in the background coming from the club when they're on the stairs, and it's very small, it's way off in the distance. The tune that actually that mechanical piano is playing is Parade of the Wooden Soldiers, and Parade of the Wooden Soldiers was written by a man called Leon Jessel, or Jessel it would be in German, who was tortured and killed by the Gestapo during the Second World War. So there was a certain sort of, I knew the tune quite well, and then I looked into him and thought, definitely that. So,
that's so wonderful, isn't it, when those things connect? Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Thanks very much for sharing a little bit around that inspiration, and thank you to Joanna for that question. Let's move on. I'm conscious of time, and oh my goodness, one of my absolute favorites of the festival again. And congrats to several of you on all the nominations for the awards page. Thank you so much. The fabulous guide on, which is just a staggering piece of work. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it does so much, so effectively. How did you go about researching this? Because do you have a bit of a military background yourself? Is that right?
I do. So this is actually loosely based on something that I experienced in basic training when I was there. So I was in the U.S. military for 7 years. So that's enough research time, I think. 7 years. So yeah, it's an AFI thesis film. So coming out with, part of a master's program. And you have to have an idea, and that was just something that kind of hit me. Like because I would be just randomly, like, my friends, because I was one of two veterans like U.S. veterans. We have Korean veterans and Israeli Defense Forces and stuff that were part of the program as well. So people would constantly be asking me questions, and I'd be telling them all these stories and everything. And that was one that came up, and as I was telling it, I was just like, that's gonna be the one. So so it really it was, I think the hardest part was taking a personal story that has all of these elements that are like really important to me in, life, that audiences are not going to get. So it's like taking something personal and boiling it down to its essentials. That was the hardest transition for me, is trying to get that down. But yeah.
I bet. I mean, I didn't twig actually until this time watching it for the umpteenth time, that thing at the end about your school. I was like, hang on a second. This is a student film? What? This is nuts. I mean, it is so accomplished. Congratulations. It's got such skill in every corner of it. It is, yeah. Andy and I were chatting away. It's just great. It's got such so much to be proud of. So well done, and gosh, what a bright future you have ahead. I particularly wanted to just ask you about, there's some great moments where you really use the camera effectively. There's a couple of brilliant bits of like handheld to really get that destabilizing feeling, that we feel that kind of judder with her in the camera work, and you also just build the tension beautifully there. I just wondered about some of those choices and what you were hoping to achieve with that.
Honestly, my only input was I wanted it handheld, because that felt like it's chaotic, and basic training is chaotic, and you feel you're always confused, and they design it that way, to have you thinking on your feet all the time. But my DP, Dae Kim, he's the one that, I mean, we collaborated together, but he's the one that came up with a lot of really great angles, movements. We shot with 2 cameras. We had camera A and camera B. That way we could get as much coverage as possible, because we were limited in the time that we had with the group of everybody. So he was really, really genius. I'd never worked with 2 cameras before, and it was hard to wrap my mind around it as a director. So he just gave me camera A monitor, and I was just like, okay, so as long as everything's good in camera A, and I just completely trusted him with camera B. He's incredibly talented, really, really. And he was he's in my graduating class as well. He just graduated with us for cinematography. So keep an eye out. He has plans on coming to London at some point. But
come say hi. I mean,
good.
God, yeah, really talented. But that's the sign of a great collaboration as well. I think, it does takes 2 to tango, and I think you're being very humble there. But it's brilliantly paced, and I think so much of that came through in the edit as well. I think you managed to keep it really focused on her story all of the time, because it's everything about this film is the detail. It's the tiny, it's the millimeters, it's the exhale, it's that one blink in that one moment that says something different about the motivation of the character or whatever's going on. I think it's incredibly nuanced in the way that it's directed. So yeah, well done, and thank you. I wanted to also ask you about your casting, because it was almost hard to work out in terms of nominations and things, because they are so strong. How did you go about the casting?
We worked with the casting director out here in LA, and that was my first time working with a casting director. Most of the time we just put stuff out on backstage or whatever, and we get what we get. But this casting director, I just wrote character descriptions and sent them out. I like blind casting. I just want the person to feel like the character. And we had a lot of really strong actors come through, but Chantel specifically really just felt like Hallie, felt like Private Varro. And I fought tooth and nail for her, because my producer was leaning more towards somebody that had way more followers. and was a little more established, you know, which would have gave us, you know, I guess some audience. But at the end of the day, it's like, if the story doesn't shine, you know, if the character's not believable, then it doesn't matter how many followers that actor has. But we had quite a few discussions on it, and I finally got what I was wanting.
I'm so glad because that's a common story these days around some of the choices that are being made from the producer's point of view, and prioritizing followers on social media and things like that over the integrity of the character and the integrity of the story. And I'm so glad.
My drill sergeant, she was actually not my first pick. My first pick ended up dropping out because we had to shift dates, and she completely lost the dates. So I went with my second pick, and she killed it. I sent it to some of my old Army buddies, and they were like, "Was she in the military before?" I was like, "No,
she's the real deal."
She really, like, she feels it. They're like, "Wow, it's giving me a little bit of a, you know, some flashbacks to basic." I'm like, "I know, she's really good. She knocked it, killed it." Yeah.
I'm just going to jump in quickly, just because I know that Fatima has to go. We're nearly going to wrap up quite soon, folks. But thank you so much, Fatima. And if you do need to shoot off, that's totally fine.
Thank you so much. Just want to say that everyone's films are beautiful and inspiring, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thanks so much, Fatima. Bye. I also must ask you about the score, Paige, because that along with the edit, like, it just so beautifully charts the emotions. I think the scene that I think is so brilliant is the at the end, everybody's dead. The crawling along the ground. That is just, we're so with her, and we feel every bit of it. How did you work on that with the composer?
The composer's Tanis Chalopin. She's up and coming. She's very, very hungry to compose, and I loved the idea of working with a female composer. Rare and hard to find, at least in my little bit of experience. Yeah. And she that scene in particular was a favorite of a lot of the collaborators on the film. And I got a lot of, it started just with the idea, you know, of like how she's going to get this idea into how the drill sergeant's going to get the idea into Hallie's head of that this is teamwork, not individualism. Mm-hmm. And from there, like, everyone that, like, camera built on it, you know, the actors built on it, sound design built on it. Like the bullet sounds was never my original idea. That was my sound engineer, and when he played it for me, I was like, oh my god, like, this is incredible. And then Tanis came in, and I gave her a few, like, reference tracks, and then she just took it, ran with it, and did this beautiful, just, like, tension building, like, emotional building kind of.
It really gets me. It really gets me. I think it's beautiful. Does anyone else have any questions for Paige?
Actually, I want to say something because of not choosing that, you know, much followers instead of choosing a real actress. So congratulations, you know, for that. Because I really fed up, you know, see untalented people on the screen. That because they have followers. It is not art, it's something else.
Yeah. And just, you know, maybe if you know, people are actually just spending time busy with their work and with their performances, so they're not spending loads of time on their marketing and their social media. So, you know, that one doesn't necessarily equate to the other at all. David, did you have a question?
Yes, just a quick one. And no, please feel free, Paige, to refuse to answer this, because it's slightly personal, but I'm just intrigued. So forgive me. But I'm thinking of that character and obviously your own experience, which is really interesting. And I just wonder, do Paige and this character both have the same reasons for joining the army? Because it's not something I have any experience of at all. And I'm just kind of intrigued. Don't feel you have to answer that. It's nobody's business why you joined. So please feel free to say, well, if you don't want to answer it.
The main character obviously is the one that I identified with the most. And originally, you know, I kept it just with my intentions of why I joined and all of that. But as I started narrowing it down and boiling it down to something more simplified, she started to become her own person. Like the character started to become her own person. So like in there, she has a quick line of like, oh, it's kind of a family tradition to carry the guide on. It was never a family tradition. I was like one of the first of my generation to join, you know, back in 2008 when the US was having the recession and all that. So my intention to join was to get, believe it or not, filmmaking experience. My job in the military was lights, camera, sound, and broadcast systems. So I wanted to do film school, and my dad didn't think it was a safe enough job. So I found my own way.
He's right. It isn't.
Exciting. Yeah. Yeah, so
That's amazing.
It's a great story. That's amazing.
That's such a good story. I mean, I love the idea of going into the military so that you can be a filmmaker. I think that's smart. I think you're onto something there. I think we should all just be a decoy. I think it was my sort of surrogate granny who ties in with Mousy. She was an ensign, so she was an entertainer for the troops in World War II. And you know, I always rather like the idea of joining the military in order to be a fabulous performer. You know, because everybody needs films, everybody needs art, everybody needs entertainment, even if you're on the battlefield. It's very important. If anything, more important in those moments.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I think we have to wrap on up. Oh, I could totally carry on chatting for ages with you all. These are just such special films. Last of all, we had The Last Step, of course, which was so stylish, so moving, and just tied it all into this beautiful package. It's really interesting how many times animation came up in this block, and I think there is something about when the harshness of war goes beyond what we're able to depict in live action. And I think those films, as well as Yulu, really picked that up beautifully. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you are watching us, then please stick around. We are kicking off with our next block in just under half an hour, 25 minutes. Ooh, better make a cup of tea. And then that one is Love in the Time of COVID. Love in the Time of COVID is coming up at 4. And then this evening, our very last block is Isolation. And that starts at 8. So really fabulous work coming. Thank you so much to all our filmmakers and to our fabulous block of War is Hell.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone.